everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra, and today I want to start talking to you about my plans for my notebooks, my journals, my planners for the year 2023, because somehow it's November. I'm feeling a bit nervous as I sit down to film this and a bit out of sorts because I feel like I haven't done this in a while, even though I technically have. But anyways, we're just going to go along with it. And we're going to start by saying, if you're new here, a very special hello and thank you for clicking on this video. On my channel, I specialize in making content about personal and witchy development using tarot, journaling, and astrology. Ooh, fancy. And if you like those things and are open to a weirdo on your screen, then I hope you will consider clicking that subscribe button, clicking the like button on this video, and clicking that bell notification. All of those things really help the channel. They really help the algorithms and all of those things. And I hope that you will consider sticking around and joining us here. I cannot believe that it is November. Truly, I am baffled. And it's the 8th. What the shitballs? I don't even know. Anyway, this means it's time to start thinking about next year and start talking about what I'm doing in the year. And I wanted to start with talking about my personal Astrological Almanac. This is a Honeycomb Co product. There will be a link in the description box, and this video is like a more official review, because I reached out to the folks at Honeycomb and I asked them if I could review their digital product for my channel, because I was already going to use it anyways, and I was already going to talk about it anyways. So I was like, maybe we can just make this a bit more official. So there is a link where you can check it out. There's no coupon code or anything like that. I highly recommend the product though. So let's dive in. First, this is what I had last year, and I used this thing a ton. And then here I have the pages I've printed up for this year from the digital version. A little bit later in the video, there will be a digital walkthrough, but I wanted to talk first about, so we're just going to tuck that aside a bit. I wanted to talk first about this and what I use it for, and why I ended up going digital when I've used a physical one. So, and what's just kind of interesting, name change. So this one I had the solar return plugin, the Chiron asteroid plugin, the lunation charts, and the note pages. And this is for this year, which is now drawing to a close. And the artist for this one, let me just find the art. Madeline Decotes. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. My first one of these I bought was in 2021 for like July. And I bought it for the information. This is not a tool to teach someone astrology. This is a tool for someone who understands astrology to an extent, so they can find their astrological information, follow along with it, and do their own interpretations for themselves, right? Or even like for their channel, for example. So this is not really like a beginner thing. Now, I did get this. There's still lots of things in here, astrologically speaking, that I am still learning. Like, yes, I am a professional astrologer and a tarot reader, by the way. I have a website, it's in the description. But yes, I am a professional astrologer. And what I do is I teach what it is that I know at this point. And I'm extremely clear with all my clients that I do not know everything. I cannot teach everything. I give resources to help people look at the things they might be interested in looking at that I haven't gone in depth with yet. And as I work with my clients, I update information as I learn it. That is how I do things. And all of my clients are okay with this. Otherwise, I guess they would not be my clients. But so I got this because one of the best things and one of my biggest recommendations for astrology is to follow along, to use observation to help you learn. An example of that is for myself, when I was at the beginning of my astrology journey, all of a sudden one day, I was tripping over my tongue. I kept getting tongue-tied, and then I was like, what the fuck is up? So I went and I looked. I looked at my astrology, and I found that Mercury had just, literally moments before I started tripping over my tongue, had entered Libra. And why that's significant is because, so this is my birth chart. Here's Libra. Here's my Mercury. So when Mercury enters Libra, I enter a sign-based opposition. And what, in like the simplest terms possible, I speak Aries, right? Mercury is how you think and how you communicate. So I speak in an Aries way. And then Mercury in the sky, bringing our attention to different ways we communicate and think, was like, now I'm going to make you speak and think in a Libra way. And I started tripping over my tongue. And this was an incredibly memorable moment. And that is one of the things that really helped solidify my understanding of how, like, Mercury oppositions may affect some people on a very, very, perhaps otherwise overlooked scale. So I have this, when I got it, I was doing interpretations, and then, and we're going to talk more about this stuff in this. The important part here at the beginning is that I realized I wasn't using all of the pieces in this. I definitely use my chart. I refer to my chart. I use the calendars every month. But, and like, I use the calendars every month, but I got the notes plugin. So this is what it looks like with the notes plugin. You get the weekly view, and then you just get a blank notes page for every week. And as you can see, I tried using it, but the vast majority of the time, I did not. So there was all this extra bulk, all these pages wasted that I wasn't using. And that makes me uncomfortable and unhappy because of waste and things like that. And then the other thing that really drove me towards the digital instead of physical was the fact that, of course, they're printed on the backs of each other. So, like, even if I wanted to, there were times many times where I considered pulling out my weekly and sticking it in my planner. But there was always something printed on the back, so I would lose that information. And the part where that really shone was here with the lunation charts. So I decided to go to the digital. And now let me hand you over to the Kyra who just filmed. Let me hand you over to that clip walking through the digital. So here is what the digital looks like. It pretty much looks like the same as the physical one, except for the fact that I've added new plugins, and I got new artwork. This artwork is by, it says on the last page, so let me just get that for you. Zen Claire. I so apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. It's Xeneclare. Who's apparently a Taurus sun, Gemini moon, and Capricorn rising. I couldn't resist the adorable artwork there. So this year, I ended up getting more plugins. Now, I'm not going to be able to tell you a ton about like how to use all these plugins because I don't know. I got them. I used this opportunity and I thought, well, I'll try the plugins so that way I can show people, A, who do know how to use them, what they look like, and B, I wanted it as a motivator for myself to get me to dive deeper and study more. I'm extremely excited to start my 9th house perfection year of spirit and study. So the plugins I got was the Solar Return plugin, the Hellenistic plugin, I made sure Chiron was on this, and I got the lunation charts. I didn't get the notes plugin, which is something you can get, and of course, please remember the website is linked down below in the description box. I didn't get the notes plugin. I got it last year, so I'll come back to talking to you about that. Or I'm filming this before I film anything else, so I might have already mentioned it, so this might be cut out. But I didn't get the notes plugin because I ended up not using it enough. The Hellenistic plugin is the new one that I haven't had before. So here's my title page, and the title page has the dates, and the cool thing is you can get these for any time. I always like to get mine with my calendar year because that's just how I like to do things. But you can also get one for your birthday. You can get one for whatever time. They're made to order kind of a thing. So, which is really cool. And then it says your name. And right here, this is a fabulous fact. All times are local to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Now that's not for everyone. That's for mine because that's where I live. So when I did the Solar Return plugin, I put it in. There's a place that you put in where you are now, so that way it calculates them to your local time zone. And I'll show you an example of like how that makes a difference. So you have the art, like the cover page, and like look at this cuteness. The Honeycomb Collective like copyright page, and then the contents. So you always get a big content page. And of course, the more things you add in the plugin, the more you get. I got almost all of the plugins. As I said, I didn't get the notes. And otherwise, I think I got them all. I'll double check and like maybe put a subtitle or something. So you get Almanac Anatomy, which is telling you about it, Glyph Key, yada, 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 a bunch of stuff. So this is the Almanac Anatomy. It's telling you about how you use it. This is the Almanac Anatomy, where it's explaining what goes on the, like how to read it. I feel like this is a good time to note and specifically say, this is not necessarily recommended for beginners. If you are looking for a tool, a planner tool that will to help teach you astrology, this is not that tool. There's no teaching in this. There is no instruction in this. If you're looking for a tool that you can use to track astrological information for like observation purposes, which I can talk to you more about a little later in the video, this could be working for that. It's just extremely important to note, this gives astrological information, but it does not explain how to understand the astrological information. The idea behind this is that it is, the idea behind this is it is providing astrologers and people who use astrology a lot with all their information and all their calculations done. Because without something like this, the astrologers and the people who use astrology would have to look up this information separately. This is doing all the legwork for you of looking up the information. There's no interpretations. It's completely open. It is literally designed. Let's see if it says. The version of the almanac offers data that is relevant for astrological interpretation. However, generally does not provide synthesis of the data presented. So it really is an advanced tool. I personally know there are ways that you can use it in more simple study kind of ways, which I'll talk about. But so this is explaining how it looks on the monthly calendar, how it looks on the weekly calendar. This information would look smaller or larger depending on the plugins. Like I never had before a Hellenistic moon void of course versus a modern moon void of course. And it's explaining all of these different things. And then this is really cool. We have a glyph key. So it's a giant index that shows all the different things. It shows all the symbols that you'll need to do this. And then you have, that was very loud, sorry. And then you get into your birth chart. So it asks you for your personal, for like your birth information. It asks you for your personal, like your birth information. And it is important to note that it does tell you on the website to please still double check the degree of your rising sign. Like mine, I put in my birth information correctly, but for some reason my rising sign was off by a degree. I spoke to them, they easily fixed it. It was really no big deal. It was just very confusing. So you get your birth chart. When we go back down to the tabletop view, I will show like a comparison between the pages I've printed of this so far and how it looked previously with different plugins. So you get your birth chart with this really freaking cool sheet, cool like sheet behind it. Here, you get a chart analysis. I'm pretty sure this is because of the Hellenistic plugin, and this is not like, again, there's no interpretation. It's just telling me things about, like, for here, for the chart analysis, I have this domicile lord aspect. What this means is I have Saturn in a Saturn-ruled sign, so it's listed that way. I truly don't know how to read this chart yet. This is something I'm going to learn. So if you just heard that water sound pickup, my wife has finished her exam and is now in the shower. So that's what that noise is. Please disregard it. So for me, as a person with my brain, having a visual like this that makes me go, ooh, what's this, will motivate me to study it. I know some of like the aspects that went into this. I don't know how to read this chart. However, I believe this is part of the Hellenistic plugin that we have here. And it's talking about my chart, like my chart analysis, the favored sect is the day. And honestly, this is I find one of the best ways to study astrology because I'm still studying, right? Like, I never will stop studying astrology. That's what I do. I find the keywords in astrology that I'm not familiar with and I Google the shit out of them. Anywho, I did get the solar return plugin, which is another thing here. So it always shows it in a chart. And Then again, there's the chart analysis. This one will have a favored sect of the day. This is my solar return chart for next year, 2023, on my birthday. Then I have the solar return chart for 2024. When you pick the solar return plugin, you get 2 solar returns, and you can choose to a specific location. So, like, if I knew in 2024 I was going to be visiting Greece, for example, I would have put in the specific location of Greece, and it would have updated and made sure my chart was accurate to where I would be at that time. So there's my solar return chart and the chart analysis again. Another part of the Hellenistic plugin is the annual perfections. Now, I talk about perfections a lot. This is that technique where, like, you'll hear me saying, I'm in an 8th house perfection year. And that's based on this chart. So everyone can get this chart. You just Google annual house perfections. This one is specific to a Cancer rising sign, someone who has Cancer in the 1st house, like me. So, and this is based on whole sign house system as well. So for the period of this almanac, when the new year starts in January, I will still be in my 8th house perfection year because I'll be 31 years old. And then in March, I turn 32, which means I'm starting my 9th house perfection year. And as you can see, I haven't had a 9th house perfection year since I was 20. And this is what we use for the time technique for figuring out our Time Lord, figuring out overarching themes that could be going on in your life. But so you do get a annual perfections chart. And another little way to show the same information. What I really love about the Honeycomb is that it shows the same information in several different ways. Because it's fabulous, because not everyone will visually take in the information the same way. Not everyone can visually take in information, right? So I like that it provides it in multiple different ways. A little bit of information about the annual perfections. So it's a Hellenistic Time Lord technique that can help you determine which planetary transits and natal house themes might have the most impact for you in a given year of your life. So for example, when I was 20, I was in a 9th house perfection year. The 9th house is the house of spirit and study. I had if you're a part of my membership, if you're one of my witchy wonders, you will have heard me talk about this in our, in the live where I told my whole witchy story so far. There was a time when I was 20 when I got together with my wife, and the spiritual activity in my life just like it grew so much. I felt so in tune, so in touch, and I commented on how I was missing that kind of feeling, and then come to find out I'm about to start a 9th house perfection year. A couple months into 2023. I'm extraordinarily excited. So there's that. I did opt to get the zodiacal releasings, which is, I think it's part of the Hellenistic plugin, but you don't have to pick it. I have no clue about what any of this means, but I want to learn. So I clicked it to motivate me. To make me be like, I'm curious, what's this? And get me to actually learn it. So I have the zodiacal releasing. It looks like this. And then it talks about it on the calendar, because it does show up on the calendar. There's some more information, which, like I said, I just do not understand. And then we have the lunations. This I understand. This is the list of our moons for the year. It shows what date the moon is based on my time zone. This is extremely important. Let me give you an example. This solar eclipse new moon on April 20th at 12:12 a.m. in Eastern time, because that's where I live, in Aries. That's not going to be on April 20th in the Pacific time, right? So folks who live in PST. This is going to be on April 19th at like 12, 11, 10, 9, at like 9:12 p.m. because they live 3 hours behind me, and this 12:12 a.m. is based on my time zone. So this is one of the things that makes this really cool, is it calculates it for you into your time zone, so you do not have to. So if you know astrology and you use astrological information like I do, this takes like all the legwork away. All you have to do is just order it to your specifications, put it with your time zone, and here it is. So I have all my moons for the year laid out here, and they're all in my time zone specifically. So I do not have to do any of that figuring out and finagling. And I can see very plainly, because the red, where the eclipses are going to be. It's going to be very interesting and exciting, because the eclipses are going to be where, or at least part of them is going to be in Aries and Libra, which is, I have stuff. Blank notes page. This is what the notes pages looked like in the other one, which I'll show you when we do that. You get a chart with planetary movements. I really like this chart because it just shows it. And then you get a chart with all the, explains specifics of the planetary movements. So this shows all the retrogrades and stations and all of those kinds of things here on this chart. You get charts with transits. There's multiple different ways to read transit charts. But you do get this here. The lines show you how close you are to transits. So the solid line is when you're in an aspect by degree. The lines sticking up from the solid lines are when you hit that moment of exact, like it's an exact thing. And that's the orange is retrograde, the black is direct. And then the dotted line is when it moves away from that aspect, but it's going to come back. So let me find. I just want to find an interesting one. Let me just find an interesting one to talk about. Hold on one second. Ooh, I like this one. All right. Let's look at Chiron. This here is Chiron. This symbol here means it is going to be opposing my moon, because that's the moon. So starting October, the October that passed, Chiron was within 10 degrees, I believe, was opposing my moon. And then at some point in October, I will have to look it up, in the middle of October, because we got like 3 squares for each month. So this would be beginning, middle, end of October. There was an exact opposition. And this was in moving retrograde. So now we're here in November. Now, even here in November, I'm still in the opposition time period, and there's a dotted line because I move out of the exact degree, but when it goes direct, it's that fucker's coming back, and it's gonna hit, looking up, at the end of February, and then it's gonna go for a bit, and then more dotted line because it's gonna fucking continue, because Chiron is being a butthead. And here it is more. Until October 2023 to September 2024. So this gives you more of a long range view on how the outer planets are interacting with your chart. So that's kind of how you read that. And then you get into the monthly stuff. And each monthly stuff is formatted the same. You get a title page, which shows a chart that shows the movements of the planets. So for example, this here in January is when Mars is going to stop fucking around and is going to go direct. and start fucking moving back straightwards. So you get that chart, you get a list of the mundane transits, you get the lunations listed, you get the stations listed. This is when, so January 12th, Mars will station direct. That means it'll stop fucking retrograding. You get the ingresses, which is when one planet moves from one side to another. And then you get outer planet natal transits. So these are transits with my natal chart and the outer planets. So you get a really nice overview page. Then you get whatever drawing it is. So here, this means Mars station direct in Gemini, and we're all like, woo, about it. And then you get the calendar. So we'll talk more about the calendar when we go back to top down in a minute. But this is what that calendar looks like. Then you get that same kind of chart, but the inner planet natal transits for the month of January. So let's see here. What interesting kind of movement. So Mercury is going to be squaring my sun in January. Let's look at Mars, actually. Mars is more interesting. Meh. So we get these charts. I'm actually curious to look more at these charts now, but that's okay. So we get these charts to show. So I know throughout the month of Mercury, or for the month of January, my God, Mercury is going to be making some noise squaring my sun in Capricorn. My sun sign is in Aries. Capricorn is a square to Aries. All the cardinal signs are square or opposite to each other. Then there's a notes page, and then you get the weekly layout. And it looks like this. The other thing in the digital file, so you get the weeklies for however many weeks, and then you go into the next one. And then at the back, once you get through December, you get an ephemeris. So this is a different way that you can read information. So this is what people have to use in order to calculate some of the stuff that's already calculated in here, right? So here Mercury is in retrograde. That's why this part is red. The reds are retrogrades. So if I didn't want to look at my calendar, this I can see when Mars leaves retrograde, because I go down to the bottom of the red. It's on the 12th, which means on the 13th, it stations direct, which means on the 12th it stations direct, and on the 13th it begins moving direct, and it shows the movement. So here it's getting closer and closer. I do have a declinations part. I think this is a Hellenistic plugin as well. Again, this is something I'm curious about, but I have not learned yet. So, for example, if I keep looking at Mars, right fucking here-ish, right in this bitch, in this section right here, I'm going to have an exact Mars moment, because Mars is in Gemini, which is where my Mars is, and my Mars is at the end of Gemini. So there'll be a moment there. It's going to be the 23rd or the 24th, the 22nd, or the 24th, somewhere in the 22nd to the 25th of March. So, so I do have that. So let's go and look, actually. There it is. March 21st. So this is how you read this calendar. What a fucking doozy, y'all. Send me everything you got energy-wise in March, please, because oh my God. Oh my God. So, on March 21st, it is a new moon in Aries, which is significant for me. Not only that, but this fucker. So at 2:40 p.m., Mars in the sky will be conjuncting my Mars in my chart on the day of the new moon. Fuck. And then also, isn't this a solstice? Or a spring equinox? Isn't that in March? Fucking balls-tastic. Anyways, so the way you read this is, the gray ones are all the things the moon in the sky is doing. The black ones are, like here, are mundane transits so everyone's experiencing it. So let's see. Here, on the 28th of March, Mercury is conjuncting Jupiter for everybody. And then, but the blue ones are personal. So this conjuncting my Mars, unless you happen to have the exact same Mars as me, that won't be a thing for you. But so by looking at the ephemeris, I know roughly where to look for these specific things. So back down. So back down to the ephemeris. It goes for the whole year. And then we have more of these zodiacal releasings things, which again, I really just can't speak to, but I'm excited to learn. And then we get my lunations charts. And there's one for each moon. And this is what we're going to use to segue back into the tabletop, because this is the whole reason I ended up going digital. So when it came down to it, as I started thinking about it, the deciding factor was the lunation charts. Also, though, I will point out, this is this binding has popped out because the notes pages makes it so thick. So it was the lunations chart. Every single month I wished that I could rip out the chart and stick it in my journal, because B5 size journal, it fits. Like, yeah, we'd have to trim some of the excess white, but that's no big deal. So every single time I wished I could just like and stick it in here. But if I did that, I was losing the information from the next moon. So like, this is in June, but here starting at the beginning, if I stuck in the January one, I lost my ephemeris. And then if I stuck in the January full moon, I was losing my February new moon. And the way I wanted to use this information, I didn't want to put it in such a way that I could flip it back and forth. I couldn't think of a solution with them printed on the back. And that was what really led me into the digital one. So you've seen the digital, and this is the first batch of stuff I've had printed. Just making sure we're not blurry. So let me just show you some of the differences. And I didn't print up everything. That was one of the biggest things with the digital. I printed up only the stuff I thought I would actually use in physical paper format. And I did, like, I don't know how much it actually worked, but I did save it in B5 size format. It looks like it's the same size, but that's fine. So like, I printed the title page. I don't know how much of the title page I'm going to keep, but I wanted this fucking cuteness here. Are you kidding me? So I printed that. I didn't print up the contents because I don't have the whole contents. I didn't print up the anatomical, the autonomy, because I can refer to it on my computer. Like, if I need more information, I can refer to it on my computer. If I find that I am constantly referencing something that I haven't printed, then I can decide to print it. But this way I'm not having a bunch of excess paper. And this way I'm using some discernment, right? So the anatomy I didn't print. I didn't print the glyph key. I might, because I have a natal chart now, I might rip this one out and keep it, but I don't think so, and the glyph key has changed. And then here's my chart. Okay, so I guess it did show a bit of a, yeah. So when I saved the pages to print, I saved them in B5 size format. Because they're a B5 size notebooks that I use. And if you like notebooks, make sure you stay tuned, because I've got a new notebook therapy notebook to talk to you all about. So, as you can see, my chart is the same. All the information lines up. However, A, this is smaller on the page. B, this is cheaper paper, which is fine. But C, the big difference is this. These inner rings here. And these inner rings are from the Hellenistic plugin. I'm not 100% sure what they mean. This is something I'm still learning. As I was saying in the digital part of this video, and there are time stamps down below, I got the Hellenistic plugin to help motivate me to learn more about it. The other thing is here at the bottom, there is a planetary speed chart, which I really love. This is how I learned that Jupiter was stationed direct on the day I was born, which that in astrology means Jupiter has like a bit of an emphasis. So I did get my natal chart, and all the charts have this Hellenistic plugin, these extra rings of like glyphs and whatever definition it is. And there's some extra stuff, like there's a lot of fortune, a lot of love, I assume. I don't know all of these, but there are different lots. That's what these things are that are related to the zodiacal releasings, the Hellenistic plugin. So I did get my natal chart printed. I didn't print the part on the digital that talked about the favored sect day, because I don't know if I would use that information. But this I want to stick right the fuck in my journal, which I'm very excited to be able to do. Because I've never been able to. And as you can see, it will fit. It won't be going in this journal. I just need to trim some more of the white, and that fucker's going right in there. So I'm extremely excited. I got my... I'm just going to put this aside. I did get my solar return chart printed. And so what's cool about the different charts is that you can like visually compare them, right? So here on my natal chart, the sun in Aries is in my 10th house. Here on my solar return, the sun in Aries is in the 2nd house. Comparing and contrasting between the two charts gives us a lot of information when interpreting astrology. So I have my solar return chart. I only printed the 2023 one because why would I print the 2024 one yet when I'm not there yet? I did print my annual perfections chart because I wanted to be able to reference it. And I reference this kind of stuff a lot. I printed the overview of the planetary movements. I did not print any of the rest of those like line charts. These ones. I didn't print any of these. Although now that I've looked at them more on the computer, I am curious about them. I can still go and print them. I might for the month, but I'm not sure. I'm going to do some thinking about that. So I did print the planetary movement and stations. I'd like to have this as a visual overview of what the sky weather is going to be like for the year. And then we have my January stuff. My plan is to do this each month. We shall see how it goes. I've printed my overview page, which I'm extremely excited to have. I do wish, like, maybe I wouldn't have done it for the outer planets, but I do wish, and like, it's not too late, I can still print it. I do wish that I had printed this for January. So I will probably go back to Staples and print this, because looking at it digitally just kind of reminded me of how I can use the information, but I don't know if I would actually like use this in any kind of a capacity in my journal. I'm not at a point where I write a lot of like interpretations based on my sky weather, right? So maybe I won't print it yet. Maybe I'll just kind of use that on my own in some way. But I did print the overview for January. I printed the picture because it's adorable. And then I printed the calendar, because this is the one thing that I consistently used every month. So I've got that printed. And then the last things I printed so far are my lunation charts. The ones that take place in January. My plan is, now that I have these, to use them in my setups in some fashion. Like my natal chart will go in the front of one of my like new journal. I might print one every time because I like it and why the hell not? So my natal chart, my solar return and such are gonna get pasted in so I can work with the information in some way. And I'm extremely excited to have this part, the overview. I'm extremely excited to have this part to stick in to kind of look at things. I don't know where it's going to take me exactly, but I'm super excited, and I'm so excited to have my lunation charts that I can print and stick in and work with. Because the other thing too is, like, I don't think I'm going to necessarily stick this in ahead of time. I might, I don't know. For all I know, I might decide to stick this in with like at the beginning of the month. I don't know. I don't think so. I think I'll hold on to them and stick them in as they come up, but I'm extremely excited. I love my Honeycomb. I use it a lot. I reference it a lot. If you are a client of mine, you will have seen it come out many, many times. Many times. And it was definitely the right choice for me. And plus, this saved me money on shipping. It was definitely the right choice for me to go with the digital. So I recommend the Honeycomb Planner. If you have a basic understanding of astrology and you're studying it, I recommend that you could get the Honeycomb Planner to help you kind of notice what transits are going on for you. Like that story I gave, that example I gave of my Mercury in Aries and how Mercury in Libra interacts with me. You could use this for that. Now, granted, you could also do that, get that information for free online. So if cost is a barrier issue for you, this is not necessary. But you can. And like, you can do what I tried to do, which is write in it. try to write in it if you notice what your mood is like. Try to write any noteworthy things. I did write some noteworthy things in here. I can't remember a bunch of them. It's been a whirlwind of a year, but you can try to write in it. You know, so you could do that. If you are a person who likes astrology and knows astrology and whatnot and would do these kinds of calculations, then I do for sure highly recommend the Honeycomb, because it will save you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort. And if you're someone who uses it journaling wise, I recommend you consider the digital for a few reasons. One, I always recommend things that will help us cut down on waste. If I'm not going to use a bunch of paper, why would I have a bunch of paper? Now, I am thinking with my previous one, I would like to go back and reflect on my year and see if there were any noteworthy days from this year. I would like to go back in here and look and see if there was anything that sticks out astrologically. So that is something. See this shit. Ugh. Oh, right. I forgot that I pulled this out. So I do recommend, so I am going to do that. See, this is what I'm talking about with the binding. So, it's the binding's a bit too small, so it pops out of the end and it damages the page. So, maybe don't get the note pages, or maybe get 6 months at a time, or go digital. Then you can reduce waste by only printing the pages that you know you're going to use. You will have the other pages that you can access, so you can print them at any time if you decide you would like to use them. And this is more user-friendly to me. Yeah, I'm printing on one page, but this I can actually use in a concrete way, because that's another part to the whole waste thing, is printing on double pages, printing on both sides, it saves a piece of paper for sure. Except if then the piece of paper just sits there and doesn't get used, then you're wasting something in vain, kind of a thing. Or at least this is how I feel about it, right? If I'm going to use paper products, I'm going to use paper products. So having them printed, not on either side, having them printed in the way that I can put them into my journal, that also helps me reduce my waste, because I'm being realistic about what I'll actually use. So this for me is more financially accessible this year. I do not have a lot of money right now. So I cannot afford a whole big thing. And we already had some money on our Staples print card from a previous thing we had to do. So I currently have spent $0 on getting this printed, which was a very important thing, right? And that's why I only printed some of it at a time. So the other great thing about the digital is that it could be done in a way that's more financially accessible. So for some of us in really tight financial positions, having a bunch of money up front is hard to print a whole bunch of pages. Whereas printing these pages cost me $6. Except it didn't cost me $6 because I already had money on the print card. $6 is a lot easier for me to put together than $30 to get the whole thing printed. So that's also a factor, especially if you're only printing on one side each. That also factors in of I can't afford right now to print it all. I can afford to print the stuff I'm going to need as I need it. And that's the other great thing about digital is like there's no obligation to print it all. So if I print something like this and I find that I'm not using it, I can just not print it the next month, right? So that's why I ended up going with digital, and that's a look at what kind of information and stuff is in the Honeycomb Co Personal Almanac planners. I really do love them. Huge thank you to the people at Honeycomb for allowing me to review this digital product for the peoples here on YouTube. Big, big, big thank you. And I hope my viewers enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give a thumbs up to let me know that you enjoyed it, and subscribe, as I said, and leave a comment. Is this something you're interested in? Do you use astrology in your journaling process like I do? I'd love to hear about that. And then in the description box below, not only can you find the link to Honeycomb's website, as I've mentioned, but you can find my website. I am a professional astrologer and tarot reader, and I specialize in combining the two to create a very unique reader-client experience for y'all. If you're interested, you can check out my services there. If you have any questions and would like to talk to me about them, whether that's about your astrology, whether that's about my services, recommendations for a video, anything like that where you think you might like to contact me, my email is also in the description box. Please feel free to reach out. And the last thing in the description box is the link to check out my channel membership. There might also be a join button beside the subscribe button, depending on what device you're on, but I have channel membership, and my top tier is my Astro Allies. And starting in January 2023, we are going through the whole zodiac month by month. So my Astro Allies get a monthly live and a monthly video, and then whatever else random little extra things I do for all of my members. So they get a monthly live and a monthly video and access to all the previous tiers of stuff. And we've been starting with like lesson astrology 101 stuff. And for the new year, what I decided to do was, for our hour-long lives, go in depth with each sign one at a time based on the season we're in. So January, we're starting with Capricorn because January is mostly Capricorn season. And I will be going in depth into that sign to talk about it and to teach about it. So if that's something you're interested in, that's starting in just a couple months on my membership, and that link is there. There's lots of other cool stuff that goes on in my membership that you can check out. And here's where I'm going to leave it because now my throat hurts. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again very soon. Lots of love. Bye.